So I wanted to shoot this video mainly because I had basically like two scenarios in the past couple weeks that just made me understand maybe why people aren't reaching their goals or why they're not successful in their own eyes, or mainly why they're at least not in that pathway of where they want to be reaching, or at least doing the work or the timeline that they see to have to expect to reach those goals. Right. And so it really, really got me thinking. I was like, well, I might as well just talk about it now. So the first scenario was from a kid who's, I believe he was like 18 or 19, and he DM'd me saying, hey, I have a short form content agency and I am willing to, basically message me and saying, everything about the price that he has and, how he offers things and if he wanted to hop on the chat. And honestly, I didn't really feel a need to respond to people like that because I honestly get that on a daily basis. But I was like, hey, let me just give this kid a little bit of tips and value for him to probably use. And then let me just go about my day. Right. So I was like, hey, man, like if you want to stand out from the competition, doing a great job DMing people, think of how you can personalize things and maybe even offer things for free. So you can stand out from lots of other people who are DMing other businesses as well. So in that way, I was saying, well, how about you send a personal Loom video? And from there, you'll be in a position where when you send that personal Loom video, then you can also offer something for free so you can get results afterwards, but you give them results first, and then they're going to want to work with you. Right. And so the first thing that we really talked about, because I started hearing his resistance in the messages, the first was about the Loom video. He was like, well, I don't really feel like I have as much time to do this. And then I asked him, well, how many clients do you have right now? And he was like, I have zero. And I was like, well, what else are you doing outside of this? He's like, nothing. This is just my main thing that I'm doing right now. And I was like, do you have any expenses? He's like, no, I live in my parents' house. So I was like, so that's not an issue. And so I literally was just direct with him. So it was like, and then after he responded back and he was like, yeah, that makes sense. Then he was saying something along the lines of like, well, what happens if they actually don't want to work with me after I give them, free editing? And I was like, well, the point is that you're not going to know, and that is the point, right? One, you're testing this, but two, you're giving good faith and good value out there first. And if you're good and you get results, then you're going to be in a position where they're going to have an open, much more of an open door and open arms for them for you having to talk, so then you guys can have a chat, right? And then we got a little deeper because I started understanding like what was going on with this kid. Like, why wasn't he wanting to do this work when I'm literally just giving him tips and value and things that he could do to be strategic in the way of how he's going to use this cold outbound DM strategy? And then he got to a point saying, well, I feel like if I do this strategy or use this strategy, then I won't be living the comfortable life that I want to. Right. And then I was like, okay, now this makes sense in regards to me understanding your perspective. And what I wanted to talk about here is, and how I responded to him honestly was just like, well, you're not supposed to live a comfortable life, especially at this stage. Right. And what I mean by this is, sure, he's doing the right things. He's 18 or 19, he's living in his parents' house. He's trying to go all in on this. But the perspective of I am supposed to live a comfortable life right now is essentially the biggest lie that's holding him back from actually doing the work that's hard, that's going to be more strategic and do more than what other people are doing. And all I mean by that is understanding that things aren't supposed to be comfortable right now. Right. And if you have that perspective that, yeah, things are supposed to be comfortable while I'm succeeding, then I would question if you actually are succeeding, if you aren't really giving up anything. Right. And I wanted to talk about this because I feel and I hear a lot of times about people always thinking about what do I have to do to actually reach these goals, and they don't change that perspective or thought process. And what I like to talk about of what do I have to sacrifice to reach these goals? What are the things I have to sacrifice? What are the things I have to take action to sacrifice? And a lot of times, especially in this scenario, and I think this may be more common than not, the comfortable life that he wanted wasn't comfortability in the sense of like I can just pay bills if I have any, but rather, well, how can I have nice clothes? How can I make sure I have the right shoes or the watch or the car that I want? And that was some of the things that he was saying. And I was like, dude, that is not the point. You're not supposed to live a comfortable life. And you're supposed to be sacrificing right now for probably 5 to 10 years. And everything that you make, you should be reinvesting back into yourself or into your business or more information so you can build the skill set so then you can actually learn how to make more money. And then from there, you're probably going to do the same exact thing. But nobody talks about the reality of the sacrifice that people need to make, whether it's financially, emotionally, physically, all these different things. And yeah, I'm all for making sure that you're living healthy, that you have right sleep, that everything's on check. But aside from that, right, when it comes to the little things that people expect that they should have right now, that's probably the main reason why you're not putting in the work, or there could be something holding you back if you're not really sacrificing the things to really get to where you want to be. That's point story number one. That's kind of a perspective of sacrifice of like, I need this entitlement right now. And that's why I'm not willing to put in the work. Scenario two is a friend that I have. And she's in the real estate sales industry, and she wants to get into being a designer, and has an apartment with a friend. And this is going to be more macro, but I'm going to try to land the point home with this, right? And basically, she wants to be a designer. She basically can't be promoted to a designer because she doesn't have the degree in designing. And after I kept kind of talking about, where she's at, and she's in her early 30s, so it's kind of a different perspective or a different, time in people's life. And for her, the biggest thing that was going on is the fact that she wanted to have this designing job, but the only thing that was holding back was having a degree. And she feels very comfortable, again, kind of this comfortability of her apartment that she has, the car that she has, the things that she has, that she does on a weekly basis, her food, gluten free, like all the healthy stuff, blah, blah, blah. And when it came to really understanding what was going on, I was like, okay, so how do you get the degree? She's like, well, I have to go back to school. I was like, okay, but how do you go back to school? Yeah, but I need more money. I was like, okay, so how do you make more money? Well, I have to either change another job or just try to figure out how I can work in some sort of other, or work 2 jobs or something. But the solutions I was giving to her was something along the lines of, well, why don't you just work 2 jobs? And she was like, well, I don't want to go backwards. And then I gave her another solution. I said, well, why don't you actually lower your expenses? Because you have a pretty nice apartment right now. She was like, well, I don't want to go backwards. And then I also said, why don't you go back and live with your parents so you don't have to spend any money? And then you can end up working less and then focus on your school, or you work the same amount and then you can save up to focus on school. And everything that I kept talking about was either doing a little bit more with work to save up money or reducing expenses to save up money, right? And because this perspective of I'm 31, I'm 32, I have my stuff already stable and all these things, I just don't really think she really wanted to live out of the situation that she's in right now. And what I mean by that is it is going to take sacrifice, and it is going to have to make sure that you go back home, or you do something, you quit your job and you figure out something on the way to make money. Maybe you do Uber 24, not 24/7, but you do Uber for 12 hours a day, and then you work in the evenings, or you study in the evenings to make things work, or you save up money. Whatever the case is, this idea of I'm going backwards is simply false, right? Because it gives us perspective that, well, I'm not willing to let go of this comfortable level that I built up to, because if I do, then it says something bad about me and my life. It says something bad about what other people are going to think about me. It says something bad about how I feel about myself because of what other people think about me. It says something bad basically on where I should be in life because of what other people think about me. Right. And I really just think, and I just want to land these points home for you all. I really just think that lots of people complain more about the things that they have to give up or sacrifice and don't talk about the actual solutions that they need to actually do to reach the goals that they need to reach. Instead of just saying, well, that would suck if I had to do this, I would rephrase it to, well, how could I be in a position and do this? How could I work 2 jobs, go back to my parents' house, work at McDonald's or drive Uber since I'm starting from scratch? And then during the evening, I'm just putting all my time and effort and money into a business that I want to grow, whether I'm 18, 25, 30, or even 40, right? And I feel like a lot of times, because society has made, honestly, us weak in sacrifice or in really going all in on something, most people aren't really reaching those goals. And it's really easy to know why, right? And so I just had these 2 thoughts in my head, or these 2 scenarios. And it really just shows that it's easy to be successful, or it's easy to at least reach your goals, or it's easy to at least say you're taking action and going to reach your goals. And it's mainly because there's a lot of easy excuses that people are actually making. And all you simply need is just to reframe not the things that I have to do, but I believe rather, what are the things I have to sacrifice? And am I okay sacrificing that? And if I'm not, why not? Because the more deeper you press into that thought or perspective or analysis of what's going on in your brain, the more I really believe that it's has to be deeply embedded in how you view yourself in the timeline of where you're at, or which comes down to expectations that are false, or even more, what would people think of me as to where I'm at in life? What would people think of me if I'm 18 and I'm working for 2 or 3 years and nothing has happened? How would I feel about myself? Are you going to tell yourself that you should be in this position? What would people think if I'm 32 and they see me going back to my parents' house so I can move forward in life on what I want to do? And it really comes down to just little conversations that are probably in your head, or just 1 or 2 people that you believe hold power over you, to not be in that random scenario when you're grabbing dinner with somebody and explaining for 30 seconds of how you feel, or not how you feel, about where you're at in life, and just having that shame from that person. And really, when you get super deep as to why is this holding me back, typically it has to just do about how you feel with the false expectations of the timeline, but more so what I was saying before, who are these 1 or 2 people or 3 people or whatever who you're not willing to just talk and be upfront that that's what you want to do with your life, right? And so I just wanted to end this video of just saying, one, I just wanted to share why this seems to be a reoccurring problem. And maybe I'm not the person to say this is a solution, but just sharing my thoughts. But 2, if you're in this position, really just, I guess the best way I can probably put it is really understand who these people are, and really understand that the more you let go of holding that power for them over you, the more you may feel not the best in the beginning, which is okay, but you will long term feel that with assurance, you will have the freedom, not in the things that you'll have, because that won't happen right away. Again, probably 5 or 10 years, but in the process of, I guess, just understanding that you're at least doing what you want to do, and you're not letting other people control those thoughts, or yourself control your thoughts to dictate your life. And the more we can have freedom in that, and understand that it's just a 30-second conversation that they probably don't even care. And if they do, who cares? The more we can get back to this perspective of, okay, it's grind mode. I probably don't have nothing right now because I reinvested everything. And I may be going into debt. And I may be working at a restaurant, or I may be not working the job I want to. And that's okay, because you're supposed to be there if you really want to reach your goals or be successful. So hopefully that has helped in any way possible, shape, or form. I just wanted to share these thoughts. See you on the next one.